Hello and welcome. It is the 16th day of March 2019. Time for a bonus video for the day, or one at the midpoint, 12:25 p.m. Eastern Time, almost. As I'm doing this video, all trades bets of the like within each's own risk and their own reward. I've added just a simple, different, not an indicator, I guess it is, just a moving average. You can't see it on here, and I have to reset the scale so that you can see it. There we go. And it's the 400 simple moving average of closes. That's a long number. And that means the average price for the average participant for Bitcoin over the last, since early February of 2018 is that at 6,355. So the average person is obviously down, and down a decent amount, which just happens right now to coincide a little bit or completely at this time within this level. So if we have any rally up towards that, that's, I don't know how many people are going to look at a 400. There is a little bit of a difference between 365 and 400, because that was the first one that I put in, but then I realized that the 365 wasn't in play. There's a 400 average in here, so the average participant over the last 400 times 4, that would be over the last 1600 hours isn't at about 3600, and that's the moving average for the volume. I think that might be it. I don't know why my average isn't showing up, because it should reset to that, and that doesn't look like how a moving average should look. But let's just go put it to the hourly. Okay, there we go. Maybe it was that moving average. We're basically just looking at something extremely short term. Let's take a look at this with Litecoin now. First, against the dollar and on the short term, which for Litecoin is just hanging in there right now within its 18 after it's declined at 8 a.m. But its average price, persons in over the last 400 hours, is 52. Over the last 500 minutes, if the average person is at $60.71. Over the last 1600 hours, the average person's in at $41.17 on their buys and sells. And price action overall looking pretty good. Now in the daily term time frame, getting close. The average participant's in at $83.71. If we just scroll back, because I wouldn't mind seeing, look at how flat it was here at the 100, and that's that the area. Maybe when I'm thinking about my 125 number, I'm going to be curious on this, as if again anyone's using the 400, but it was pretty darn near flat for the longest of time at around this 118 mark from July of last year all the way until in here. That's interesting. But let's take a look at Litecoin against Bitcoin within this next. And we'll start in a weekly time frame, but 400 weeks. You need 520 weeks for 10 years. So if we take 120 off of that number, and there's 52 in a year, that's a little over 2 years to get the remainder. A little under 8 years. And that just doesn't have that yet. So daily time frame will have it. And it kind of resisted it for a while. Got above it. Let me just go back. And it gets above it, barely below it, majorly above it, majorly below it after it goes through, and now so far it's barely gotten above it, and well, I wouldn't be surprised if it majorly gets above it, because it's got a long ways still to go. Again, I'm looking at this for the first time against it. There's one individual altcoin that I put this in for, which I'll show after this, because this will be the second last chart. Unless, of course, I see something after I'm done this that's new news, and I don't got many markets that I'm looking at right now. So I doubt that. Let's take a look at this on the 4 hour. And obviously, when it's well above it, you are in a you're doing well long term so far. As of course the buyers regain control, like back in this point there. So you should be in a profitable position in the last, for most people, the average person against Bitcoin would be in a profitable position because of the fact that it's now moved up towards this level. And I'm just going to check to see if anything's up. What I'll do is I don't got many codes on here. So Litecoin is like the best gainer. NLC2 at 280, that means nothing to me. And as far as a big loser, Ravencoin, I'm just keeping my eye on it, really. Not much. I actually did get into NMC just for a small amount, but just hanging in there. DGB, nothing. So the coin that I want to take a look at is Komodo. And I would rather look at the Bittrex one because I got more data. And the 400 does represent the daily chart, not any other time frame. So before we get into that, what's it mean when it crosses its history with it? Well, it found a little bit of support in here into its April Fool's rally, but the market since then has been into decline. And the key thing I want to focus on is like February the 6th time frame. Because technically, let me just adjust that 400 period. And get it to the, because it's probably, well, let's just do it. 403 is a better number. Man, that was close. That was close. It's probably not going to change how it looks that much overall, though. And then when I say probably, I'd say Shaquille O'Neal probably was a big boy when he was playing basketball. So there we have a spot where it came to that declining average in February of this year. Resisted it. And now it's just hanging in there. So where does this number lie? I guess I can't get the exact on here, but I can pretty much do so if I just go like this. To me, I guess 25,759. That tells me over the last 403 days, the average person who bought into this and even sold out of this has done so at the price of 25,760, give or take a few satoshis. And I've calculated my results since February 6th of last year, which is exactly why I put this moving average in. I was just curious to see how close it was to my numbers. And I'm pretty good, I guess, at buying at the average price. I've done a lot of trading on this coin, as I have traded 16.32B Komodos at the average cost of 25,720, which is basically, or pretty much, where the 403-day moving average is. However, I've sold for almost 2,000 basis points higher, 1,800 closer to, and I have sold 16.33B. I guess X might be a better letter than B, but B stands for my balance, how many I own today. So I've sold and bought 16 1/3 times more than what I've owned. And my net BTC gain in the buys and sells over the last 403 days equals 1.12 value of my B, which tells me that over the last recent period, over this time, I've barely been able to get what I own for free starting on that date. And I already had what I had for free at that point as it was anyway. Which is really, when you're able to have this kind of differential, it's profitable. But let's look at that 25,720 number again. 20. Well, let's just put a line in it. We put a horizontal ray, so somewhere way away from it, right here. That was the cell. Okay, was that? Yeah, 25,720. So I find that quite amazing. It's pretty much right exactly at that line. I guess I'm an average person, at least as far as a buyer. I suppose I am. Seller, again, 27. That's noticeably above this average in here. And also, price action is congesting in the average price over this period of time, which is almost for that period. It's like a neutrality mode waiting for a significant break, either up or down, correcting from one side or the other, back and forth. It's like, yeah, in the sideways range in here, we can see from the move since getting up to this more longer term average area is between this 31 and 22, and that's a lot of people are in under those price points over a good period of time. So this is where things get really exciting as you end up having a break. Either, I mean, the support is well established, huge at 23. I mean, how many times, how many days has it been the low? Quite often. And then this level of resistance in here, well, first it had 2 days at 31, at least on Bittrex, and it's tough to determine because Binance is a little bit different, and we'll switch it over to Binance on this. And we have 32 twice, and then we have some 28s and some 26s in here. But this 28 has been its congestion over the last 4 days with this major hit in here. So let's take a look at this on Binance on the daily now. And in this case, it looks a little bit different. There's a 2575 where the average price comes in, and 2572, of course, right in, just playing with the average people. But it's major level of resistance in here. Of course, different price points, 227, 28. It's been supporting this general resistance area that it's hit at this level. You also see with the moving average, something you don't hit for quite some time. You're likely to pull back, and how you do from this point on is really big. You're first always going to establish support, which was the case. And then be very cautious, because when you come up to it a second time, so what if you made a higher low? Because on a bear market, oftentimes the second time you get there, it's just going to be, it's not going to be a good time. And the second time at first went to pull back, but then it came up and hit again. And for many weeks, or days rather, after that. But there we go, now it's starting to pull back. So there's your second hit. Second hit had multiple hits within it. But after it pulled back in here, and it had its sideways range, it didn't pull back. Instead of having huge volume on this day, which essentially, or definitely, there's no essential to it, gets above this average, gets above the 18, and has been now supporting them both along the way. So how am I, within this analysis and trying to be a Hardy Boy specialist, which was a book back, I think, well, I read that book in the 80s, trying to investigate what the analysis of something is, and here, what are we going to do? Significant break above 30 and then hold and stay above it with great gains, or a significant break below 22 and change, 23, and then resisting that, holding, staying below it with significant lows below. And even down towards here, 17. If it goes here and just resists this back and forth, that still counts. But that'd be the worst case scenario on a down move, or best case for a bullish level, worst case for a bearish level. And yeah, that's how I'm looking at this. A lot of these crypto markets are showing that they're just ready to go off big. And one of the things I remember doing many weeks and really months ago for that matter was how the start of every year markets seem to have very, very interesting moves. And we'll start off with Litecoin to show such. So back in 2015, we can see that the year finished right in here. It had a good rally to start, but it really didn't get going until May, and it topped in July. Second half of years have usually not been so good. Now for Litecoin, it didn't have a good 2016 because its only rally was this little one here. We'll take a look at a couple other coins for those time frames to see how their 2016 went. 2017, everything pretty much started going up when this one did. Start of March, end of February. Everything goes up. Now for 2018, that was an early get-goer as far as I look at it. All the markets started going up in December into January, so that's what I'm counting for 2018. In 2019, this looks like it's underway doing what it's supposed to do. Within Doji, we can see that starting in 2015 that the price action in here did have a little bit of a slip, and it got together in like April, which is a very common time frame it seems. 2016 it comes, and we can see that it was starting at December, right around the late end of like December 14th, December 20th, just before Christmas, it had its move. And it topped in there. So 2016, we mentioned that bad year for Litecoin. And it was a bad year for Doji at the end, but it had this first move. And as a trader, buy low, sell high. Everything you sold here, you bought back into the 2017 bottom. And then again, 2017, it goes up. And here it does it December, it goes up. Yes, it had this move in August, September, but that was its own kind of move. Now we're going to see if everything's going to go up together. It hasn't had any up move yet in 2019. And Namecoin 2015, when its year started, we would have been looking right around here. So it took off in like April, May, a little late bloomer on that one. For 2016, like Litecoin, all it had was one quick little rally, and it went all the way down for the entire year. In 2017, it had its big move, right like everyone else. In 2018, December all the way up to January was its move, and now 2019 it looks like it's doing it now. But its weekly pattern is showing something relatively interesting in here. So we'll see how this goes. With XCM, not many candles here. When 2016 started, well, got off to a good year and much better until here, and then it's tailored off in the second half of the year. 2017, we start the year off good gain, and then we finish off the second half going down, and then the early move, this one topping at the start of the year, and then it's been going down ever since. And it's not showing any sign yet, but if it's going to be a good year, we're into March. We've seen some of the other ones take a few months. Within Ripple, it started off 2015, I guess you could say, really late. I don't know if you count that as just an original gain. Either way, does 2016 have a gain? Not yet. 2016 had this, but it's really hard to count that. But that's to show you, just because you think every year is supposed to have a gain, in this case it didn't do it, and it got it all back when it had this move in 2017. It was even further than that. Just because you think something looks like it's up too much doesn't mean it can't go up further and then dwarf its view, which was the case in here. And then going down in the second half of the year, there's your up move like everything else. It's been generally going down. We've seen here it's established this level of resistance. It's got to get above that and have a good break for it to say it's had a run, because 2019 started in here and it stayed below the 18 average of highs the entire duration of the year so far. So it hasn't had its yearly move. And it's really hard to count this one period move like this, barely going below the lows to barely above the highs. So we'll see if this one is going to follow suit. And one other thing, too, of note, that if you think that a harmony of markets is going to go up together, well, maybe some of these coins are going to go up at a different time. So that means I'm going to sell some of the coins that are up now and buy ones like this that are still like well below its average. Thank you for tuning in. And just before we go, let's just take a look quickly on this one where they. Yeah, that's interesting how this 400 is working at. It's almost been like a perfect level of support along the way. As after this move in here, the resistance, a big gain of 2018, its support is in that area. It even has a liftoff support from here. Resist previous high. Has a good, like not much of a price correction to the point it doesn't come back down, but then lower high, but in the area resistance, 3x hit. Then it comes back down here, has a couple of fake buys, if you will, and has been just settling in now over the last little while. And I think a reason why this moving average is like this is because it's eliminating some of these gains, I guess, but it looks pretty cool as it is. But in a move like this, you have point A low, point B high, retracement within. It hasn't done nothing more since then but retrace within. And until it gets above 11351 or below 4078, it's going to be just that retracement of its move. And its move is within other bigger retracements, like this one and this one. But when you got choppy moves up and down like this, it's just amazing when you have opportunities to sell up here, buy back. Sell, buy back. Got a little bit of selling, and of course, you see how this is just doing a bit of nothing. It's mixed in with this 18. The average person within this is pretty close to even. There are some that are down, some that are ahead. And oftentimes, getting away from this, you can have decent size moves up or down, especially when you look at leaving this good move down, leaving this good move up, leaving this good move down. So let's end the video, and thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.